they're not trying to hide either. Like there's giant peckers and balls just carved into the marble from ancient Roman times, because most of Pompeii was a whorehouse. It was a place where people went to go gamble and screw and do all this. Like it was a resort town. It was like Fort Lauderdale of ancient Rome. And they go down, and that's all still there. Like they have the menus up of like, do you want butt sex? Do you like? I mean, just I'm not joking.
Recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And this week, the show welcomes back Ethan McDonald to the program. And we'll be discussing many of the traveling adventures he's had over the years. Everything from the cities who offer the best food to some of his favorite locations from the past and places he'd like to visit in the future. We also speak about Ethan's horrifying medical emergency while visiting Germany, how I had to bail a friend out of a hospital in Mexico, and we both exchange the worst airline flights that we've ever been on. So stick around for these stories and more, and help me welcome back live in the studio, he's my old pal, Mr. Ethan McDonald. Ethan McDonald.
What's up, Josh?
How you doing, man?
I'm great, man. I'm excited to be back here in the studio. This is pretty freaking awesome.
It's always good to have you back. It's always good to have you back, buddy.
Good, bud.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, so let's just start it right off. We recently took a trip up to Sedona with the girls.
We did.
And up to Jerome as well. And it kind of got me thinking. You've been a world traveler. Well, you've been to a lot more places than I have.
Okay.
So I just kind of wanted to ask you about some of the places that you've been to and just get a feel of what you think of these places and what you would recommend or maybe not so recommend. Or
okay.
So what got you into wanting to travel? Like as much as you do, because you guys travel probably next to Franco Bacco.
Sure, guy that works with the airlines. How to beat that? You
guys probably travel the most of all my friends.
Well, and it's pretty amazing to say that we did all that as a high school teacher.
Yeah,
right. My wife is a substitute teacher, so I mean, even doing that, I think that's the very thing. It's like being a teacher of history as well. Obviously, there's so many places that have been just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
In my study of history, and I thought, it'd be so cool to go to those places. Never any expectation that would realistically happen.
Yeah.
And a guy that you used to know back from Auburn, who was teaching at Auburn High School, Morris Owen, good old Mo. He had taken trips with students overseas through this company called EF. And when I got my teaching job at Hermiston, he goes, hey, we should do one together. At that point, he was in Spokane at Shadle Park High School. I want to say the school of Mark Rippon.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
Mark Rippon.
Yeah. That's where he graduated high school.
I like it.
And needless to say, I think he was actually back coaching with Mo at one point at Shadle Park, but that's neither here nor there. So Mo and I planned our first trip together. It started like in 2003.
Okay.
The trip actually went in 2005. We went to Italy. Sarah accompanied me. I also said, man, I think it was the first time anything like that had ever been offered in my little small Eastern Oregon rural town. And so interest was through the roof. We had like over 30 kids that signed up for the trip. And so with this program, like if you get a certain amount of kids signed up, the chaperone, the guy who plans it, and a few other chaperones basically go for free. Like they pay for your airfare, they pay for your, so that's part of the reason why I've been able to travel the way I do, is because by offering these programs and getting the kids interested and getting them, like they have a chance for high school credit, college credit, like, and these are educational tours. These aren't like, for example, we'll talk about when I go to Greece. It's not like I'm going to island of the Greek Isles to the clubs and discotheques. That is not what our trips are about. It's a lot more educational, cultural, historic, but amazing, because it's so nice that when you get into these countries, especially when they don't speak English as a first language, to not worry about anything. Like the minute you hit the ground, other than just keeping your kids, like keep them going, keep them energized, keep them out of trouble, get them into the hotel by curfew, which really takes care of itself, because they grind you, man. It's awesome. Like if you're only going to go to one of these places maybe once in your life, wouldn't you want to spend every moment awake, like 15, 16-hour days, and then you sleep very shortly, get up and get after again?
Depends how old you are, but
really?
Yes.
And that's the thing. These are student travel trips.
Yeah.
So as I'm getting even later in years, I'm kind of like, I don't know how many of these I got left in the tank, man, because as much as they're amazing, and there hasn't been one where I went, well, that was crap or that wasn't But I mean, every one of those that I've taken with the students has just been incredible, because even if we've repeated locations, we've done that.
Have most of those trips, like overseas, have those been like on those tours? Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I always wondered that. I was like, what is Ethan doing over there with like a bunch of like a giant group of kids over there?
They're all my students or kids from my high school.
Interesting.
Sometimes some other schools too. Like EF's really interesting because it's basically like the Costco of travel.
Yeah.
So rather than just us and my little group of, depending on whatever trip it is, some have way more interest than others, they pair you up with a bunch of other schools. So they just buy like tickets in wholesale. They buy hotel blocks, like spaces in wholesale, and then make groups that want to go on them around the same dates. And so you have to have flexibility. There's a lot of challenges to it, because not a lot of people can say, hey, what are you going to do in 2 years? Can you sign up for a trip 2 years in advance?
That's
wild.
wild.
We don't even know specifically when we're going to leave and when we're going to come back. We may not even get our first choice tour. We might have to go to a tour that's very similar to ours. Like, say if we say we want to go to France, and we're like, oh, we're going to go Normandy and see all the World War II stuff, and then we're going to go to Paris. But problem is there's not enough interest for that trip. We might have to go with the group that's actually going to London and Paris and lose all of Normandy. And it's never been a problem with us. I've always been fortunate. Like, I've had so many kids that we always kind of dictate. We always get our first request dates, but it could work that way. I know a lot of the other smaller groups that have gone with us, but we've been with like students from New York, Missouri.
Well, so what countries have you been to over there?
Oh, Jesus, Josh. Sarah and I were trying to go through the list at lunch.
Because I know it's easier to travel over there than it is kind of like in other areas.
05 first trip was just Italy, and it swung through, and like there's so much to see in Italy. Like, we didn't even go to Venice that first time.
How's the food in Italy?
Unreal.
Yeah, that's like the most famous.
I'll be honest,
place for food, right?
I'm not a picky guy,
Yeah.
so I've loved the food everywhere I've gone, but Italy is one of those places, maybe other second to Spain,
that
stands out. So yes, went to Italy in 05. In 07, this is a mouthful, we were in Germany. We were in the Czech Republic, because we went to the city of Prague, which was incredible. We were in Austria. We were in Switzerland. We were in Liechtenstein. Because Liechtenstein, you take the train and you travel right through it. We were in France and went to Paris. And then there was one other country I'm missing, because I know that was 7 countries on that second tour. And it was awesome, but it was also exhausting, because some of these places you're like looking at through a bus window and not really getting the time. And so I kind of learned a lesson of, I think more than not, I want to just get into a country. Like, let's go to 1 to 2 countries and really try to immerse. And that was 07, 09. We went to Greece. 11 went to London, and Paris were the primary. So England and
wait, you went to London?
Yeah, a couple times.
Okay, so you've been to London a couple times. I don't have a lot of crazy interest in seeing tons of places.
Sure.
But of course, London for me, like being a music guy.
Okay, yeah. That would.
I want to like see a lot of the historical music stuff.
Well, maybe you want to come with me when I go to Manchester too, because I know the music scene between Manchester and Liverpool too. I mean, obviously, and they're both north end cities in England. And I want to go for soccer. I'll drag you along for that, but we can go check out other music sites as well. That'd be awesome.
Those soccer games are crazy over there.
Dude, it's like religion.
Yeah.
I would go see a soccer game anywhere in England. I don't care who's playing, because it's just so different. I mean, the fan.
Is it as expensive to like see soccer as it is like other sports? And
it's not like, I don't know what an NFL ticket is anymore. It's probably ridiculous, but I'd imagine it depends
how good the team is, right?
Depends on the team. Depends where they're at in the table. Depends on, is it like a big league rival or what they call a derby? A derby is like the other. So like for Liverpool, being a Beatles guy, their crosstown rival is also in the city of Liverpool, but nobody would know that from America unless they really know, because it's a team called Everton, doesn't have the Liverpool name at all, but these two hate each other. And so it's a big derby, and it's spelled derby, but they pronounce, like in England, they pronounce a lot of things very uniquely. But yeah, it would be, it's like, it's bloodshed. Like, these teams hate each other. I mean, if you've even seen like Green Street Hooligans, the movie that was made, like with the firms and these like fan bases, the hooligans that beat the shit out of each other after games. I mean, it's just wild. So when you go to these games, you got to be careful that you're not sitting in the wrong section with the wrong colored jersey.
I prefer not to get murdered at one of these games. Isn't that like Colombia and stuff?
Yeah, no, it's not that. It's not that. But yeah, I mean, and it's interesting too, because I was watching this whole documentary about Manchester and the music scene in the 90s at the same time when Manchester United, who's the club that I know I'll piss a lot of people off with that, but that was the club that I fell in love with. And so like these two things were both on the rise at the same time. Like the Stone Roses and some of these bands that were out of Manchester, obviously Oasis. Yeah. But I can't stand Oasis, so I don't want to talk about them. But needless to say, so no, I mean, London was amazing. That was 2011. We did those. 2013, I was supposed to go on a trip, but the lady I was going to travel with got really physically ill. So unfortunately, I had to pass that off. And then 2015, we went back to London, but also came across, and that was an awesome one. Like, we came across and did all of Normandy and saw like the Allied graveyards, saw all the positions of like, Omaha Beach and like World War. And as a teacher,
I remember you going over there, and I was like, oh man, that is fascinating.
That one was incredible.
Because it's hard. This is one of the things about traveling. right? You know what I always think about? This is what I always think about. I think we may have seen it in the theater, but Good Will Hunting.
Classic.
When he has that conversation with the kid, the know-it-all kid.
You've never been out of Boston?
Nope.
If I asked you about art, you'd probably give me the skinny on every art book ever written.
You know everything about all the facts and details and everything, but do you know what the inside of the Sistine Chapel smells like?
I bet you can't tell me what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel.
And I can tell you, it's
all
BO. I've been there. It's so many sweaty, hot tourists.
But you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing,
To experience it's different than looking at a book.
Or to just look at, so have you ever been to where the assassination of Kennedy was?
No, I bet the sad thing is we've barely been around the United States.
Okay. So it's like that. I've known several people that have seen that and they're like, you think it's like this big area. It's not. It's tiny. It's like this tiny little spot. And it's like,
so true.
Oh, okay. I can see that maybe now, but that's like a Normandy. Like I've tried to picture it in my head. I've seen all the movies and all the documentaries and things like that. But when you're there, you can actually visualize, holy moly, like when this was happening, like, I mean, there's just how many people were slaughtered. Like
we were there in like late June, early July too. And it was like beautiful and picturesque.
Yeah.
And it looks like a tourist. I mean, it's like these amazing cliffs that overlook these beautiful beaches. And you're like, how was this like this place of, like you said, immense death, destruction and human loss? Like it's hard, but you're sitting there and you can see like all the bunkers still exist, like the ruins of them. And you can see, and of course, the German engineering and you can see they have people explain to you, like, here's the support trench that comes back and brought more ammunition to the machine gunners. You remember that like classic scene in Saving Private Ryan when they're trying to get on the beach and those guys are just mowing down GIs. Like, I mean, I don't know. It was harrowing. The museums there are amazing. It's fascinating too, because a lot of people always hear the cliche thing about, like the Parisians, the people of Paris hate Americans, and they can be a little rude, but I think that's true of any big city. Any big city in the United States, are people a little more blunt and rude than people in the countryside? The people in Normandy, like, you're American, they still like, thank you. They salute you.
Wow.
Like, I had nothing to do with it.
You're like, whoa.
Yeah, well, don't salute me.
My grandfather, maybe.
Yeah, my grandfather fought for the British in North Africa.
Oh, really?
He was a Canadian and Irish citizen. So, but it's just like, I don't know, but it's amazing to see this reverence, this respect. It's like still this sense of gratitude to America and that part. And it's just different feel than anywhere else in France. And I don't buy into all the Parisians are rude. Paris is one of my favorite cities I've ever been to. It is unbelievably beautiful. But and the food there, talk about food. The French food is pretty incredible too, but it is crowded. It is chaotic at times, but
cause you go in the summer, right? Yeah. And they always say, like, if you can, don't go right after the summer. Yeah. Cause that's when, obviously everyone's going. Yeah. But like,
and we never hit those, unfortunately. Right. Like,
well, yeah.
That, like hitting the Mediterranean countries in the middle of July. That's a bad idea.
Yeah. I heard that Italy can get really hot too.
Oh, yeah.
Cause was
it 2015. I was trying to think where we went in 2017. Maybe I got that back off. 2015 was Italy again. 2017 was, sorry, I'm not trying to rub this in or make it sound like I'm an asshole, you guys. I apologize.
What an asshole.
Okay. 2019 went to Japan. But we were supposed to go in 2021 to Greece, COVID. Everything's locked down.
Yeah.
All these vaccine mandates. We had this huge group because it's Riker's senior year group. So he had been recruiting my son. And so we have this group of like over 35 people, and it's insane. We finally get to go in 2022 in the summer. Everything's pushed back. You still have to test, do all this crazy stuff. We go there it's like a heat wave of epic proportion in Greece. Like, sweating your balls, like 100, and this is like super, like near the sea, and humid.
Isn't
heat.
Like Greece? Because Greece, there's like a lot of stairs and like steps and stuff like that.
Yes,
so you're like rocky, you're climbing all over. There's not a lot of escape. Like they always
shade.
People. I always see these TikToks that people say where they're like, the things that I'm in shock with the most from staying over in the States versus Europe. Air conditioning is everywhere in the United States.
It's not there whatsoever.
Not in Europe.
You have to plan to sleep hot, and it's just like, it's just, there's so many little things. And it's just amazing too, because like Greece is one of the places we've repeated. We've been to Paris a handful of times, with London, but like going back to Greece in 2009, then going back to it again in 2022. Now that's a huge gap.
Yeah.
And just seeing how much better Greece was. Because when we went there the first time, there was no way, like you were sweating balls. It was hot. It was unbelievably, like just.
So it's come a long way. It's gotten a lot better.
Some of those ancient cities, and I get it.
Yeah.
It's hard to go put modern plumbing when you have a city that's been around like Athens since 5,000 years ago.
That's kind of the problem with a lot of these European countries too, in my opinion, because a lot of their money comes from tourism, right?
Yeah.
So like, where are they going to build like the extra stuff,
It's
like
on
the
the
new
outside, yeah.
developments? Because like, well,
You
our
see it
old
as a
stuff.
problem. I though see it as that's just what you have to realize. That's the cost of doing business. Like I'm going there fully aware. And maybe the first time, the very first trip, I was a little shocked. Like when we were in Italy, the first trip in 2005, and I'm watching a lady using the public fountain, which is not something you'd see in America, to bathe herself.
Yeah, right.
So she's just hiking up her dress around her armpits and just splashing water up her cooch. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, kids, avert your eyes. Like, I'm just like, I don't want the first story they come home with. Mom, I saw a 300-pound woman wash her hoo-ha in the There's this stuff that I was like, whoa. We stop at this. They go, we need a public bathroom. There wasn't many public bathrooms anywhere, water closets, as they call most of them in Europe. And like this one place we finally stopped and said, I was like, I don't think I can do it. Because it was literally like you could tell since like ancient Rome, like two places where they're so worn out where your feet go, and this hole that you squat over and you basically crap or piss down. And there's basically a line of people that can kind of see you. There's not even like so there's like, I can't do it. I'll hold it kind of a thing.
Good
Some
God.
people, but it was places like that. And the students and then you come back in like 2015, I went back to Italy with a group of students, and it was like, there was none of that. It was like so much better. Like they realized we really got to up our game. And especially as they were drawing, I think, more and more tourism from around the world. And I think even like COVID, like when things were shut down, a lot of these people put an effort to build even better facilities if there's nobody there right now, which is kind of a gamble because who knew? Yeah. Like, will things swing back? I mean, they swing back huge. Like it was crazy how packed Greece was in 2022.
Well, the only thing that I was just saying it's a problem in the fact that you have to preserve all these like massive historical buildings. But you also want to stick with the times in like, with building actual housing and stuff like that. But I don't know, I guess they probably do that outside and who's there's several countries that are like, we need people to move here because our culture's dying off, right? Like, isn't it
so many? Well, I know one
Italy or no, is it? I think it's Italy.
Italy could be. I know one of the countries that's really got an issue is Russia. And not that I've been to Russia, though it'd be fascinating historically. I'd love to go see St. Petersburg. But you think about the ethnic Russians, and that was part of maybe why Putin tried to do the grab, not get all weird politically here, but Putin tried to grab to get the Ukrainians because they're far more like the true-blooded Slavic Russians than all of these people from the steppes and the plains that are like where the Mongols used to dominate, and all these countries that are down there that used to be part of the Soviet Union, like the Kazakhstans and the Uzbekistan and like Borat and all that, these people are far more got a background in like Islam and have way more to do with like Asian steppe people than they do kind of the Romanovs that used to be the ruling family of Russia for us. So that's part of the reasoning maybe why they're trying to grab all these countries in Eastern Europe that have common ethnic blood. They're a lot more like ethnic Russians, and they certainly are the other people that are really starting to, mass breed and really be the predominant population. And it's like where you look at Germany, who's got a similar issue. They had negative population growth for a number of years. And that's why they were always so willing to take in all these immigrants because they need them but now there's all this backlash and populism. And I mean, a lot like we're seeing sadly even here where people are just really pushing back and on immigrants. And I get it to some degree, but it's like, who's going to do the work? And if you don't have enough people, like, we'll stop there. We'll stop there. But the whole point being, not realistic.
So you did not go to you were married when you started doing all the big traveling over there. So you never got to do any of the have you seen the movie Hostel?
Yeah. Well, imagine seeing Hostel and also seeing Taken, and then you're going to take students over. It's like trying to make sure and that was the good news too, is obviously when the first trip, it's 2005. I mean, it's a handful of years since I've been playing football, but I'm still a pretty big dude, right? Yeah. I'm a football coach and still lifting with the kids and stuff. So
I mean, look at these arms. Look at these arms.
A lot of the parents that were like, well, I feel safe. And I'm like, guys, let's not be kidding. Cause like gypsies, like the first time we went, were like way more of an issue. And they used to like tons of pickpockets. Like you had to be so vigilant.
I mean, pirates can take over ships.
Well, yeah, luckily we never had that.
I'm just saying.
I know, exactly. But gypsies were like everywhere in like the Mediterranean. Now we go back and like, I don't know that if I see a gypsy anywhere, I don't know what happened. I don't understand like what European countries did, but like we used to have to be certainly scared. And Sarah she went to Spain once with one of her boyfriends before me in college. And I think she got pickpocketed, lost like a lot of stuff, like in Madrid and the main square. Like there used to be all these worries. And then the last couple of times, it's almost like we get almost too lax. And I'm like, kids, like where's your passports? No, like, and nothing ever went wrong, but it was just like, I'm getting nervous because we're getting way too loosey goosey because most of that isn't there. And it's like, I can't explain like how much a lot of these European countries have really just realizing that's their industry. They're really doing everything they can to put some of those modern amenities like public bathrooms, simple things like that. But at the same time, cater to that, but at the same time, preserve the beauty. Because like going to Pompeii,
Yeah.
where all the people were encased in ash. Fucking wild, Josh. The place was incredible. Like going, and yet at the same time, seeing the real history of Pompeii, which I love, is like the kids' worldview is blowing up so much because you think you know what these places are going to be like. You think these people are going to be so different than you, and you realize, nah, man, they're just people like you and me, man. They're just trying to work, make enough money, put food on the table, roof over their head. They're pretty happy.
Right.
And tourism's a big way of doing it. So a lot of people are great to tourists because they know that's where the bread and butter is. The Grecian people in general are just first class, incredible. Some of the nicest people I've ever ran into in my travels of Europe. But it's just incredible to see like the efforts, but they're like, sorry, getting back to the point, they're not trying to hide either. Like there's giant peckers and balls just carved into the marble from ancient Roman times, because most of Pompeii was a whorehouse. It was a place where people went to go gamble and screw and do all this. Like it was a resort town. It was like Fort Lauderdale of ancient Rome. And they go down and that's all still there. Like they have the menus up of like, do you want butt sex? Do you like, I mean, just, I'm not joking. Like, graphic images for people that can't read. You're like, what in the hell? Like,
You know,
I didn't see this in the documentary.
speaking of resort towns,
Yeah.
like, have you said you've been to Cancun?
Yeah.
You've been to Cancun. So how many times have you been to Cancun?
Just once.
Just once.
Going to Cancun, been to Mazatlan, and we're going to go this spring break to Cabo.
Okay. I went to Cancun once or
Yeah.
twice. I went the first time I was like, man, this is amazing. Second time, a little sketchy. This, I don't know what happened to this town here, but this guy it's like the opposite of what you're talking about Europe over there. It's like, like we're talking a lot of dudes like in slow Jeeps with machine guns, like tons of that, like going on the side. I'm like, oh, that's comforting. And then I go downtown and then there's like,
Were they federale? Were they like Mexican like authorities, or was
Yes,
it, okay, at least but still you never know because there's the corruption. And,
but then you go downtown, and when I went downtown the first time, it was amazing. I was like, "Whoa, this is like awesome!" It's just like all these like very
Different
American and European partiers, and this time was like not, and everyone was like very kind of like looking at you,
Stern
and I was
kind of-
like,
was it the same
does
time
anybody
of
speak
year?
English here? Like, yeah, exactly.
It was
Same time of year.
and just
Yep.
how
I've
many
only
years
gone. I've only gone to Mexico in July, which is the
Okay,
worst
yeah.
time to go to Mexico.
Sure, yeah, hot as hell.
But yeah, everyone always asks me that, and I go, it was the exact same time,
Interesting.
just several years
Doesn't
apart.
surprise me, to be honest. I say I went to Cancun, but we actually were in Playa del Carmen, which is south.
Yes,
And
no,
it's a really
that's
nice resort area, and really
they always say it's the Cancun kind of like lifestyle has kind of
Shifted there.
moved to that area.
makes sense, because I think
Yeah.
the reason we got the resort we did, and that was like 2008, man, that was a long time ago,
Mhm.
but, was because it was brand new. And
Yeah.
they were just trying to get interest, and it was an adults only.
Okay,
And we're like, hell
Oh,
yeah, it was
adults
incredible.
only.
So
Oh.
incredible. And that was like one of
awesome.
the best experiences. And yet at the same time, I don't know about you, Josh, but both times I've been to Mexico, I feel guilty. I just feel terrible. Like, I don't know if Lee and I have ever talked about our trip to Mazatlan on here or not, but maybe a little bit in passing. But I just remember every day we left the resort, there was this kid, and he was adorable, selling the chiclets, clearly impoverished, clearly very native. And to get our attention, he would flip his eyelids inside out and then do a cartwheel. And Lee and I were like, okay, this kid's the coolest. Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So we're like giving him all, but like, and taking him around, buying him food.
Right.
Like he rode in our little cart that we had, our golf cart, and mom seemed okay with it, which is a couple of gringos taking off with you. I don't know, but he was just the sweetest kid. And like, we wanted to give money to the mom, and like, I just felt guilty the entire time I was in Mazatlan as a college kid, because there's just poverty everywhere.
Yeah.
And the drive from the airport to there was like, oh, and I'm not in any way trying to like take down the country of Mexico, but it was just like, it was an apparent.
Oh,
map.
I mean, you go, listen, every resort, you go a couple of blocks out of town.
Well, just even in the resort the last time, there's like these people, and given this one is really high, there's like people down on their hands and knees cleaning the algae with a brush off of these individual rocks in the water feature. And I'm just like, and we weren't supposed to tip. We weren't supposed to do additional tipping. It was already built in, kind of like. And so I'm like, one day there's this guy that we kept going. They had this like sports bar at the resort. You know, they have the kind of themed restaurants.
Yeah.
There's a sports bar. And so I like to go there. I suck at shooting pool. She kicked my ass, but I'd go there and play some pool, and we get these drinks. We got the same drinks every time. I don't know. They were gross. I think I got a mudslide like that. That
Okay.
just sounds so
Oh,
disgusting to
interesting.
me now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't know. I was kind of new to drinking hard ale. Other
Yeah.
than this, the cheap shit we drank
Right,
in
right.
college. So like, well, that looks like a milkshake. That sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and one day he was so nice. He kept coming back and give us more drinks. I just slipped him like $2 American. Just threw it on the side. Hey, buddy, take this.
Yeah.
The next time we come in the next night, he's got like a punch bowl of Sarah's Cosmopolitan. He's got like this
Exactly.
gigantic. He's like, yes, sir. Like, just like waiting. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it was so sweet and he was so awesome. But part of me just felt so gross. It's like, I know the Rage Against the Machine song that Lee's brought up and everything, but like, you know, the people of the sun, and like, there's still like an ongoing revolution that was never settled. There's poverty. Like the country just breaks my heart in some ways.
Well, that's like when I first went to Mexico, they're like, hey, you can just enjoy the all-inclusive, but if you do tip, you're going to be treated like a king. And I learned that really fast because this first resort we stayed in, after I went with Lee and Ryan, this first resort that we stayed in, it was all adults and topless optional. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, so we stayed at this place and we just brought a bunch of I think we brought like $51 bills, right? That's just American. Smart. And so first off, our money is worth more than theirs. So every other drink, we just give them $1. Yeah. Right. And real quick, they learned that, holy shit, these guys over here are tipping. And it's $1, just still, man. But on top of the all-inclusive, because they get they get the kickback from the all-inclusive fees and stuff like that. But if you just tip that extra $1, because like the other half of the people, they're from England. They're like, I ain't fucking tipping. Right. Like, no, we don't tip. And I'm like, yeah, you don't tip in your country, but you're not in your country. Well, you're in a different country. Why do they always, I don't know. Why are people like this? Like, it's kind of like how people describe Americans, like how they're like, oh, they could be such fucking pompous assholes. So it's like
American. And that's all I ever try to get our kids to make sure that when we're on travels overseas, like we are not the ugly American. And I go little
don't be that guy.
On my kids, like, let's not be those people. And we always get stuck with these shitty
respect the culture and, treat people well and you'll be treated with respect, right?
Exactly.
Well, or, maybe. So what is a country that you experienced that was not the best experience that you've had? Like, out of all the countries that you've been to, which one would be like, I would maybe not go to that one if I had the opportunity to go back? Do you have like one of those?
I'd even have one, Josh. I mean,
because I remember Baco talking about Egypt. Sure. And he's like,
I've heard rough things about Egypt.
He's like, fucking Egypt, man. He goes, I would never fucking go back there. And he goes, if you go, I've heard if you go into the city, it's a lot different. But if you're out, like,
everyone I know
with the pyramids and shit, like they're fucking like aggressive assholes.
No, it's okay. These guys will just come up, blow their whistle at you and point, and you assume that they're an authority because they have a whistle. And most people will tend to just follow them. But again, all they're trying to do is to take you somewhere, to show you something very quickly and then charge you for it.
Well, they're aggressive. They're trying to con you.
And there's not a lot of regulation out there. They're just they're just fucking like, let them do whatever they want.
For me to do
just strong arm you.
I would need, I had a former student that ended up being, and this is the most adorable thing. She was a Mormon girl, but she actually got a degree in Arabic from Georgetown and was worked for the CIA as an analyst. And was fluent in 4 forms of Arabic. And if I had Lindsay with me, I probably wouldn't have any fear because she's not going to let it. She's been there. She's worked in the Gaza Strip and worked she's an unbelievable, nothing intimidates her. But if I don't have someone like that, I'm certainly not taking children to Egypt, let alone probably Sarah and I. So to be honest, most of the places we've gone are places where kids want to go, that parents will let them be safe. There was one time I wanted to add a Turkey kind of excursion to the end of our Greece one because I would love to go see Istanbul, this amazing city. Parents were so petrified. Isn't Turkey a Muslim country? Because I live in a very conservative part of the country. And I'm like, yes, but it's about the most secular part. It's trying to explain it. I could tell right away the amount of pushback from parents. The kids were all on board. Parents wanted nothing to do with that. So I had to cut that part out. And all of a sudden, enrollment went through the roof with the rest of the Greece trip. So, I mean, other than some bad experiences just with kids being knuckleheads or doing bad things, right? Which ruins.
So you don't have any bad experiences in any of these countries, no bad food, no bad interactions with people. I've heard that Greece can be very aggressive. They grab chicks' asses and shit on trains and stuff.
Than Greece to me, but that depends on where you're at.
Okay,
we travel in a big pack, and when you've got big dudes like me or whatever, or I don't know, some other parents have been with the group is. I've never had anything like that. The one time in Italy, the Italians. Obviously, Italian as a language is very close to Spanish. They're both from the Romance family of languages. And so my Spanish-speaking students, and I've got a lot of these girls, these Latina girls that come with me on these trips. Also, because I think at that point, Hermiston's 70%, or excuse me, slow me mouth down, 70% Hispanic now. When I first moved, there was about 50%. But I've had a lot of these girls, and they knew what they were saying. And these 2 Italian guys were laying, and we had a couple pretty girls with us this one time, and they're like, Mama, see, saying all these things. And then one of my girls is Spanish, I was like, I know what you're saying, asshole. And like, I back off. And like, she was so intimidating. The guys were like, whoa, they kind of backed off. And I mean, I've had some guys that hit on my wife and like, line side of me, especially in France or something. But, I don't speak French. Yeah. Mademoiselle, kind of like, but it's just like, other than that kind of stuff. But to be honest, I'm pretty easygoing. And as long as kids are safe, like, I don't recall. I was even asking Sarah, like, I know Josh is going to ask about what country wouldn't you go back to? And at lunch, Sarah's like, I mean, this is like been our priority. Like Sarah never thought in a million years. She used to date a guy that was a pilot. And she thought, well, here's my only chance if I really want to travel, which is like her life goal. But then when she married me, a teacher, she's kind of thought like, well, that's probably out the window. But just to her credit, like she's such a good steward of our money. And that was always been the priority. Like if you came and saw our house, Josh, it's falling apart in some parts. And it's like, we just don't give a shit. Like we're going to prioritize travel. That's always like, we don't know what we're guaranteed in terms of time, especially with, my health stuff and everything. Like we don't know. I mean, someday I could be in a wheelchair, knock on wood. So, why wait and waste that time to see and wait for the future? Let's live now.
Should we slow down?
Sorry.
Let's address this.
Okay.
Cause I don't think I've ever asked you this, right?
Oh.
Like, so you have
multiple sclerosis.
So that's pretty well. Cause like the spectrum is very large, right?
Right. Yeah. Many people that have MS, you see them, they can barely walk or speak or they move. Like, believe me, sitting at my doctor's office, waiting for my appointment, I watch these people go in and out and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. So how, just back up, we gotta, because I don't think you've ever explained this. So how did that first come about? So
strangely enough, for the company that we travel through, they sent me to Germany to train other teachers about how to run a successful program because I had taken so many. I'm from a rural town. So I was in Berlin, Germany. I'm at this seminar teaching teachers how to do this. And one morning I just wake up and go, really weird. I can't feel my feet. Like it almost felt like they fell asleep. And I'm like,
no, that's like a symptom, a lot of like diabetics and stuff, right? Like
could be. Yes, they have like a lot of
like very numbness and stuff like that.
And tingling. Right? It was very similar to that. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is really weird, but I didn't even know that because Riker never reported that, even though our son's got type 1 diabetes and stuff like that. He's never had those.
That's the kind that you're like kind of born with, right?
Not type 2 where you've done
acquire
yourself. Yeah. So unfortunately we figured out all these things come from my mom's genetics and that side. There's all sorts of autoimmune diseases. And so, I find out that I have MS by my feet going numb. The next day, it's rising. It's like up through my calves. And I'm like, okay, this is freaking me out.
Wait, so that happened that fast?
That fast from one day to the next. Frightening. It's kind of rising. And I'm kind of
how are you're just able to walk normal?
I just can't, it's numb, but I still have full muscular control.
Okay.
I still have but it's just like the tingly, can't really feel like, it's kind of weird. It keeps rising up. And so it was only like a 4-day weekend. Like it was like there was no school on a Monday and I got Friday off and asked for like a leave to go on that. And the school district was nice enough to grant that. And so I'm kind of getting ready to come home. I'm kind of freaking out a little bit because it continues to rise. It's like mid-thigh.
Dude.
And I'm starting to like, do I go to a hospital here in Germany? Like I can't imagine that's good with my insurance. And so luckily one of the ladies that I had a relationship with for the company that kind of brought me there in the first place, her mom was a nurse. So she called and explained everything, all the symptoms. The mom goes, I have a feeling I know what this is, but I'm not in the world of medicine. We never want to freak people out. Ethan should be fine to go home. But as soon as he goes home, he needs to go see a doctor ASAP just so they can get on top of whatever this is. So I follow her advice. By the time I get home and I'm like sitting in Utah for a layover, I'm sitting there. I'm texting Sarah. She's freaking out because apparently I told her I can't feel my legs and then didn't text her for a day and a half. So she's ready to kill me. But I was just enjoying myself because I'm like, I'm here. I'm drinking Pinot Grigio and running around like an idiot. It was cheap. I don't know why Pinot Grigio. I was like, hey, it's cheap in Germany. I'll take it. And that stupid celiac thing. So I couldn't drink the German beer. I'm not a complete sissy, but I don't have a choice.
So that came
tied to it. Yeah. That's part of these autoimmune too.
How long before that?
I don't know. Like Riker had it when he was 2. He was diagnosed with diabetes at 1 and celiac at 2. And then eventually they just say, well, one of you, he had to get this genetics from one of you 2 parents. So at some point you guys need to take the test yourself. And I knew it was from my side because my grandma had been celiac forever and she had like Hashimoto's. I'm like, I'll take it. And basically the doc goes, look, Ethan, your blood test came back positive. I could stick a camera up your ass and make it really uncomfortable for you, but why don't you just be smart and just stop eating gluten? And I'm like, aye, Captain. And so I just went celiac and that was probably, I don't know, a while. I think Riker was probably like 8.
Now, were you having symptoms of like?
No, if you get it late in the adult, you don't have symptoms until it's like full blown colon
What are
cancer.
the symptoms of it?
You can have diarrhea, loose stool, tons of like inflammation and pain, gut pain, like anything you can think of, any of those kind of gastrointestinal kind of pains, like Crohn's, where maybe you just don't like, for those that don't know celiac, and if you're tired of all these gluten-free people, celiac people don't have a choice. The gluten molecules destroy the linings of our intestines so we don't absorb nutrients. So even if I'm eating the healthiest food on earth, I get none of the benefit. It just gets flushed out because the little philia, these like little fingers in your intestines that grab those and put it in your bloodstream, are destroyed by the gluten molecules. And in America, because we want our wheat to last longer, we have over-engineered it to be 3 times. Like there's people that are celiac that go eat in Europe and actually eat wheat and get no reaction.
That's what I heard about. Like,
it's crazy.
Italy, you go over there and you could eat whatever you want, and you're like, you feel great.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you're like, I'm eating the same thing, and I feel like shit.
Well, what they say in America, like over some ridiculous, I mean, so don't quote me on this, but like it was some ridiculous high percentage of the food that we eat in America didn't exist 20 years ago.
Yeah.
This is because of all the, better living through chemistry. But yeah, so celiac and MS, I just got go to school because I could still feel like it's crazy. It rose up to my belt level, Josh. I could not feel anything below the belt. Like I could still hold my crap in my piss, thank God. But I couldn't it's the weirdest thing when you're grabbing down there to control so you can pee and like you can't tell. Like I have to physically look because I cannot feel.
That's creepy, man. It's like just like creeping up.
It was freaking me out. And like my buddy Aaron that I teach with, this Davis cat, he didn't believe me. He waxed me with a yardstick from behind, hard in the nuts to see like, oh, whatever, you fucker. And I didn't flinch. He goes, oh my God. He's like, you might need to go check to make sure. Cause I hit like, I didn't even move. I'm like, hey, asshole, I wasn't joking. I wasn't looking for, yeah.
You're like, great, now I have a ruptured nut.
Yeah, a ruptured nut. So I thought. So yeah, that kind of came in. And then luckily kind of, when we went to the doctors, it just became quick diagnosis because they ruled out all the stuff like a sciatica or pinched nerves in the back and stuff like that. And the guy kind of knew, he goes, I have to rule this stuff out first, but there's no way, like you wouldn't have numbness on both of the sides rising. So they finally took me to an MRI and they found lesions on my spinal column and my brain because basically with MS, your immune system's letting white blood cells where they don't belong, and it's attacking your own brain matter, your own nuclei and everything, and just like doing demyelination where it's like pulling away the electrical coating of your nerves, and it's just your body kicking its own ass. And so luckily they got a quick diagnosis, way quicker than most people. Like you hear horror stories where people go to doctors for 6 years before they find out they have MS, and it's done so much damage. Wow. And it seems like I'm on the very non-aggressive side of the spectrum so far. Like I said, knock on wood. So I've just been doing treatments ever since. And I mean, shit, that was like 2000, maybe 15. I'm terrible at dates like that. 2015. Fun, I'm a history teacher. You think I'd be better at that, but
yeah, I remember that post, and I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? What?
It's kind of shocking. And I felt weird even putting it out on social media, but it was just like, rather than try to explain this to a bunch of people individually, this might just be easier. It was suggested to me by my doctor actually. And I'm like, that seems so weird, doc. That's not my style. Like I'll put 3,000 pictures of my wife up, but I'm not going to talk about what's going on.
Right.
But I'm like, okay. And so it was nice in a way because it did let a lot of friends kind of at least know. And I wasn't trying to worry people or fish for sympathy. It was just trying to like let people know. But luckily, I've had, other than every now and then I get like weird things that are associated with it. I've been unbelievable. Like I got all my feeling back.
Yeah. So the treatment of that, you said, is pretty brutal. It can be pretty brutal sometimes.
Like if you're okay with the needle.
Okay.
Like the Appendix has a pen that injects this thing, and it's a needle about this big that goes into, because it has to go deep into your muscle tissue. So I have to stick it into my thigh.
Good God.
So luckily it pulls a sheath so I don't see it, and I put it and it goes like, boom, and it's like shooting a blow dart into my thigh, but it goes pretty deep. Yeah. And you pull that thing out, it's like, oh my God, that's like sick. But it's once a week. And there's other treatments that are less than that. Like I know, like I've become a huge fan of is her name Jamie Lee Sigler? No, that was on The Sopranos.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
She's MS.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah, Christina Applegate. And the thing that says floored her and taking away all of hers, and just she's got MS. Yeah. Hers is clearly more aggressive. But there's a bunch of these stars and stuff that at least are putting a lot of interest in treatments, and put a lot of their own money into. I'm just really appreciate those people.
Do you know if like if everyone kind of has that first kind of symptom, like where they're like, holy shit, I can't feel my fucking, like, is
not
it
necessarily because there is so much weird neuropathy and other things. Because I thought, well, is this something? Because I don't know. One of my buddies was talking about he had numbness. And it was Lee. We're talking to Lee. Okay. He was kind of talking about, I got some weird symptoms, but
everyone just starts getting freaked out when you hear this shit, right?
So many things. Like I found out too, part of my problem too was that I had way too much vitamin B in my bloodstream. Like for whatever reason, it's like fat soluble. Most people piss out the excess. Yeah. But for some reason my body didn't. And I was drinking a bunch of Emergencies when I went over to Germany, and I probably spiked it. And this might've been like the environmental trigger that kicked in the MS. Wow. It was like they're trying to explain this to me like it might have, I don't know. Because once again, with all autoimmune, the genetics are sitting dormant in people's blood if they have that, if they genetically inherit it, sadly, like I did. But there's always an environmental trigger. It's like my celiac came later in life. My MS kicked late. Some people won't get type 1 diabetes until they're like in like 20s. And some like Riker got it when he was 1. I mean, we don't exactly know why, but it's just weird. So not to make this into
no. I think it's interesting, man. Like because so like
good.
Everything you keep saying keeps me going back to something that you clicked in my head. Like you were saying, you almost went to a doctor in Germany.
Yeah,
and I was like, now. Are a lot of Germans fluent in like English?
Most countries, there's a few that aren't great at it, but Germany is unbelievably fluent in English. Netherlands, when we went to like Amsterdam and Holland, man, they speak better English than we do. It's amazing.
I'm sure they do.
The countries that really struggle, we notice, like France isn't great at it. There's some of those countries that don't, but it's weird because they take American shows and they dub all of their own voices over them. And it's really freaking weird when you're watching Friends. Yeah. And Joey's got some weird French, like some voice that doesn't, It's like, what the? Because they have a bunch of our TV there. Yeah. But when you go to Greece, which speaks unbelievably good English, or Amsterdam, it's literally our shows. And then they just have the subtitles in their Dutch or their Greek, but it's them all speaking English. Yeah. And I can remember going to Greece the first time in 2009 and we turned on the TV and Old School is on. And I'm like, well, they're going to think, no wonder they think Americans are a bunch of fucking weirdos. Old School with Will Ferrell and Luke Wilson, like hilarious movie, but they're showing that in Greece. And I'm like, this is probably not the best way to depict Americans as they're driving around in a van listening to Master of Puppets abducting people from parking lots. But great scene, by the way. Great movie. But yeah, it was really interesting to see the countries that make an effort to put all the original American programming in English. These countries are unbelievably good at their English. The ones that don't, really, really bad English, if any, and then it's a little more intimidating. You need this bilingual tour leader that we get as part of the package when we take kids overseas.
So have you been up to like Norway and Sweden?
I have not. No. I would love to go to the Scandinavian countries.
I know Lee went up to Sweden.
Yeah, I would love to. And they speak unbelievable English in a lot of the Scandinavian countries.
Heard the ladies look a lot like your wife too.
She's got Finnish and Swedish blood,
okay, there you go.
Makes sense. Yeah, she's very Scandinavian. Yeah, her original name before her, like, generations back when they came here and they changed it to Lind to make it easier, but it's Schmidibaka.
Oh, really?
Schmidibaka is both from Finland and Sweden. They're
Interesting.
So
now, are there other countries that you're looking to visit, like as far as other continents or?
Yeah,
or
I would love to put my foot on every continent. Like we got to Japan and we're taking students this summer
you did?
Japan.
Wait, so you're going to Japan?
Going to Japan this summer and went 2019. So this will be my second trip.
Oh, so you've already been to Japan? Okay.
Japan was incredible.
That's what I've heard. My mom's been to Japan.
Yeah,
she's like, wow.
Nothing I've ever experienced. I would love to see Vietnam. Never made it there. That would be a tough one to get parents on board with. So Sarah and I just kind of the realization, like, our last trip is probably going to be coming around with the students here pretty soon, just because things are getting tougher. There's way many more people in our school that want to do these things, and I can't monopolize that forever. But secondarily, just also, like I said, just getting older and like just doing things that we want to do and not have to worry about getting 30 kids to the bus on time. And because to be honest, my work is all the airports. That's where the part, and all the things that can go wrong with multiple layovers with 35 kids. I don't know where I left my passport. Come on. Yeah. I'm like, God damn it. Just trying to get, that's where I do my, once we get there, I'm like, I can relax a little bit and enjoy. But,
those Home Alone movies, they resonate with you.
They do. They do too much. Just trying to keep
getting everybody going.
I run to get them through, and then I'm always the sweeper. I'm the last one for security. I'm the last to make sure everyone made it through. But like we've had all sorts of good things. Kids that like left the passport as we're flying back to New York. They fell asleep and left it on the tray table. They wake up, they can't find it. Now they claim it was stolen. I claim they're just dumbasses.
What happens in that case? Like what?
Well, what do you guys do? It's tough because it's not like I'm back. We had a kid once who got their passport stolen in the train in Paris, but they were a dumbass and they took out like money and like plain sight. And this is packed to the bone. And so this guy was near the exit, just grabs everything. And the door opens and the doors close again and he's gone. And he was fast as hell. I'm on the other side with like 35 people. I'm like, how many times I tell you don't fucking take out money? But you tell kids 1,000 times. They're kids, right? Yeah. So it was a bummer, but it's like, what are we going to do? With that situation, we had to go to the American consulate, go there, spend all this time. One of our group leaders, and I was so sweet that this lady I was traveling with said, I'll take her. So I had to take the rest of the kids and I didn't miss anything. I felt terrible, but Heather had to go and take the student to the consulate. And they had to fly home 2 days later. All these other things is because they had to get the passport. In the case of the girl that lost it on the plane, I'm in New York just trying to beg customs to believe me. Luckily, I notarized photocopies of every kid's passport as the group leader.
Really?
I've got plans on plans.
Oh,
I'm not,
man, that's
I'm
awesome.
not doing anything.
You're like,
without a plan.
I'm not messing around over
I'm
here.
not messing around. And luckily, Mo taught me well because he'd been doing this
Yeah.
for a while. So I had all this stuff and they had the notarized copy, and they accepted that and they let her into the country, thank Christ. But it took a lot of arguing and debating in New York, where people are not always the most patient or kind. But in the end, they were really good to my sweet little girl. Plus, it didn't hurt that she had a twin sister, identical twin sister, was on the trip, and she had her passport. Like, look, we're not lying.
Yeah.
So-
I had an experience. There was a buddy that flew out here one time and he lost his license like drunkenly at some bar or something like that.
Probably
He goes back to the airport and he's like, oh, I don't have my ID. And this was like really cool. And I was like, I never thought about something like this, but they're like, do you have Facebook? And they busted out his Facebook and they went through his Facebook and they're like, you're good to go. But cause he was just flying back to Chicago.
Yeah.
But they're like, well, you're who you are.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, that's a cool
creative,
creative,
though.
right?
I don't know that everyone would be that cool.
No, but it
is
makes sense,
creative. It
right?
makes sense.
Because it's like, oh, what are you going to go back in 15 years on your,
I'm going to create a fake profile here in 10 seconds.
right? Like, but I thought that was interesting. So they're like, hey, just get it replaced when you get home. Like, but what do you do? And I mean, I'm sure that happens every day, all day, at the airport.
On one of our trips to Hawaii, and not to make other people, but my wife's in love with Hawaii, so we've been there 5 times as well. One of the trips to Hawaii, I thought, I'll just grab passports.
How many islands have you been over there real quick?
Just Oahu. I'm lazy.
Oh, you've only been to that one island?
Because we love Oahu. Like,
Okay.
we could.
You never
other
take
places.
jumper planes over to the
We
other
could,
islands?
but
Yeah.
we just don't, because Oahu's got, like, Sarah loves the nightlife and the action.
Yeah.
And Waikiki is like Vegas on the beach.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just the people watching, but then you can go to the North Shore on a short.
My parents have been to like almost all the islands, and they're like,
See, that's awesome.
they're like Maui's beaches.
Are
They're like,
incredible. I've heard, but I'm not
forget
a
it.
beach guy.
yeah,
I'm not.
that's
gonna
it. You guys mentioned
I'm not
that.
gonna
Yeah.
sit on the beach. I'll do it a little bit, but I want to go have a good time. Like, I want to go on hikes. I want to go do some other. I want to go out and do things. I'm not going to just lay on the. I know a lot of people love it, nothing
Right.
wrong, but sand gets into places on me that are not natural. No
Yeah.
one does anyone want.
And Sarah's not a big swimmer and stuff like that.
No,
So yeah.
we put her in the floaties and pull her around. But
Gotcha.
needless to say, yeah, she's adorable. No, so like when we went there, I one time went to just grab my passports, and I thought, well, shit, Sarah and I had the last ones at use these, so I just threw them in. But I didn't look. I grabbed Riker's and Sarah's, and so we're at the airport, and I'm realizing we're supposed to get on this flight to Hawaii, and I don't have. Luckily, my ID. I'm taking for whatever reason, I didn't even have I don't know. I was thinking like I'm going to minimize what's in my wallet for things I will need or not need. And I haven't been carded since. I mean, look at me, man. I've got a forehead the size of a drive-in theater. I got that. So yeah, I don't get carded a lot. I've had silver. So it's like, and luckily, like talking and debating and stuff like that, we got it figured out. And I think I did eventually find like, oh, I put my license because my wife at the last second realized I was an idiot and grabbed it for me or something. But it was like, it's amazing that you can run into super cool people that want to just help and are always super helpful. And then you just occasionally hit those people that are having a bad day. And I just try to remind myself, I've had bad days too.
Yeah.
But not because nothing goes good if I just start getting pissed off back. And you can see the assholes all the time that start pissed off. And that's like, what can we do to make this guy have a really hard time? I think we just found our new subject for a body cavity surgery. Let's flag this. I don't want any of that. I just want to be, because those people, it's amazing. Treat people well. It's amazing how well they treat you back. So
Yeah. No, so you've been to overseas.
Yeah.
What now? And you said you haven't been to a lot of places
Not a
in
lot,
the States,
some.
but
yeah, I've been to
what's-
Chicago and New York and
what are your favorite trips in the States?
in the States. Definitely New York we just did that last summer.
There's so much to see in New York
Dude, it's
too.
just amazing. Chicago was incredible too. We
Yeah.
stayed with Lee and Griffith and just got to go check that out. And because it was only a short, 40-minute drive or something. Like I haven't found a big city yet that's really turned me off. I'm sure there's parts that wouldn't be fun. Like you even come down here into Phoenix and stuff, and it's so weird. It's not like a big city, but
Yeah,
it is.
it's weird, right?
So stretched out, but it's like, I don't know. I just find
they're like it's the 5th biggest city in the United States. I'm like, really? Like,
you guys are making shit up. You count every suburb.
maybe because every
Spread
city is
out.
like 4,000
Well,
like,
when you're on one side of Phoenix and you're driving for an hour just to get to the other side of Phoenix,
It's
I mean,
crazy.
part of that's traffic and these weird
Yeah.
roundabout, but it's like, okay, dude, how are we still in theoretically the same city or greater Phoenix
Right.
area, right? But like, yeah, no, those places stood out. I'd love to go down to the south and our buddy Robbie's down in Atlanta, maybe check some of that area out. But I've been to like a couple places in Texas, but it was mainly airports.
Gotcha,
So
okay.
not really out, and
Yeah.
so I don't count that. A country that I didn't do with students that was absolutely incredible. I say the 2 countries that surprised me, but if anyone can get to Spain, man,
yeah.
Spain is just incredible. Just the entire culture, the lifestyle of you got the siesta where people take the nap in the middle of the day, but then the nightlife and there's you're out and there's a family next to you and it's 11 p.m. and everyone's having a great time and it's a party.
I love
Nobody's
that.
got phones out. everybody's just talking to each other, having a little drink, it's like, and every time we went out and like,
So it's like back when we were in college.
yeah, it's a little more like, exactly. It's a little bit that night, but even like just a little more family friendly version of that. But like, so my nephew Kersey married a girl from Spain when he was traveling. He was like teaching English after, because he got a Spanish degree, was trying to get some immersion, and met a girl when he was over there and fell in love with her, and they got married. And so he lives just outside of, just not outside of, but like probably an hour south of Valencia, Spain. So it's like where all the expats of Europe go. It's like their Hawaii. It's just beautiful. These beaches, like the beaches are some of the most incredible and beautiful I've ever seen. The food was incredible. And then when you've got a native speaker along with a guy that's lived there now for 10, I don't know, it's about, but not 10, but lived there for a long time, and they go everywhere and just interact for you. And the people, I'm like, Spain was just mind blowing. And
Spain
Ireland,
would be in your top 3.
easily.
Top
Ireland
3.
would be pretty close to, like, I love London and England, and it was pretty cool, and the people are great, but Ireland was just gorgeous, and it was like rural. It was like even Dublin.
Oh
was
yeah,
like
you were up
not
in
a
the
big city.
They say that the weather's very Seattle-esque up there,
it's
right?
very
So did you feel at home up there? Aside from
lots
all the
of rain,
castles and stuff.
but even with the castles, and like we're at just this like mom and pop little hotel, and Sarah and I wander in the backyard. There's like this giant castle, and it's like, so it's like every place here, it's like a romance novel. It's just so beautiful. And she doesn't usually like rain or cold, but she fell in love with that country. Like, she dreams.
Did you see the Led Zeppelin album?
The Giant's Causeway. It's
yeah,
amazing.
Giant's Causeway.
We
Yeah,
have many a photo on the Giant's Causeway.
except for the naked little girls that are
well, they
climbing
were
on it.
there, but when I'm just joking. No, we had students on that trip, and it was a small group, and it was just incredible. And the people of Ireland are just first class, and they're just so proud of being Irish. To some of the cool history of like where the
Did you go to any of the pubs, the famous pubs over there? Yeah,
right on the famous pubs, and because over there, man, the Irish in particular, like Ranker and I drink Guinness, and we weren't supposed to, but we didn't have any reaction. It was, like, it was so good.
That's right.
Yeah, because we're not supposed to, but we didn't have it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But they have some amazing Irish like ciders that are super dry. It's almost like a light beer.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't even taste like fruit, and they mix that with the Guinness. Like that's the true black and tan.
Did you guys look at each other when you were like, all right,
Well,
here we
Sarah
go?
was like, okay, do it near the end so that if you get really ill, like it's at the end, and like you just be miserable on the plane. So we tried to wait the best we could. Be like, we were like, Rebecca's like, shit, yeah, I'm having more of that. You know, like, we're like,
I mean, you're like, well, listen, if we go out here and we're not going to have like a Guinness, I mean, come on.
I mean, we had a good time.
How do we do
I
it?
fell in love with Irish coffee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
So you can have the coffee.
Oh, the Irish coffee. Well, I can have any grain alcohol because
Okay.
distilling removes gluten.
Okay. Gotcha.
So like,
All right.
like having some Irish whiskey and a little Baileys and a coffee. I mean, a little whipped cream on top. It's hard to beat that. Man. It's hard to beat that.
It's like
Plus my
candy.
grandpa-
It's like,
well, yeah, my
it's like a
grandpa-
milkshake.
My grandpa's from Northern Ireland. Well, it depends on how much you put in. Like if you don't put a lot, and it's more like coffee.
Yeah.
This is but the little whipped cream on the top just helps take a little edge off, depending on how much of the Irish whiskey you put in there. But yeah, my grandpa was from Northern Ireland, so it was cool. We got to go by the village. We didn't get to go into the village that he was raised in before he hopped on the boat at 9 or whatever and came over to Canada. But yeah, it was just, I'm telling you, Ireland definitely worth checking out for everyone. And you could be, I mean, obviously you don't have to worry about language or anything. Although a pissed off Irish person is really hard to understand what the hell they're saying. But needless to say, it's like
Pissed off, drunk, and
but the people were just incredible. The pride they have for their country, the visual, like just the physical beauty of like the greenest, most lush places. Like I think about Western.
Of course, it's green.
Well,
it's always
I think of
cloudy and
Western Washington,
raining.
how beautiful it was.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
You know, for the same reason. But this is like taking it to another level because there's just this like there's these walls that have been there for thousands of years. There's these, I don't know. It was just like it was incredible. It was like walking around in a fantasy novel or something. But it was one of the places that really stands out to you. And maybe it's just recency bias because that's two of the places we went most recently. So I don't know.
So what are your kind of like bucket list places for like the States? Because I know that I know you mentioned you want to go down to Atlanta and stuff like that. No, do you have any interest in going to like places like Florida or Louisiana or
how would you
Texas?
You
or
definitely want to go to Louisiana. I don't know about Florida for two reasons. Florida.
Yeah. Lots of fucked up shit happens in Florida.
Well, it does. And then just the climate of Florida. Like I'm large. I'm a
very humid,
255 pound man.
That south region, it gets pretty humid. But if you go in the beginning of the year, it's
maybe
very
I might
coveted.
have to do it then. But I just don't know that Florida has. I'm sure Miami would be really cool.
Like Florida, most people go to Florida for the beaches and Disney World, right? So like that's like their big attractions, right?
And for me, I think Sarah and I are way more about like the natural beauty of places when it comes to the States, like obviously the Grand Canyon.
And you guys are big history buffs, especially you, obviously. Yeah. So
I'm
like
more of a world history buff though. I don't even teach a lot of U.S. history, so I need to learn more.
Okay.
Because I've just taught world history forever.
I heard the Alamo is very underwhelming. but
I could see that.
historical, but very underwhelming.
Aren't we going to see the basement?
There's no basement at the Alamo.
The one place that lived up to the hype for me was seeing the Colosseum in Rome. Because you think about where all the people died, but the fact that you even saw where they could like flood the thing and make like naval battles.
That is
There's
insane.
shit that's like, where do they even come up with this stuff? Like there's some of those things.
So
but
advanced.
when you see Mona Lisa and you're like, that's not even that big. Like you're sitting there in the Louvre looking at the scene, but the people are mass crowding around it. And like, it doesn't matter where you go. It looks like she's smirking at you. It's kind of like, all right, there's some cool shit with this, even though it's kind of like the Sistine Chapel. Like I said, the BO smell of just all these sweaty, dirty tourists that were out there.
Yeah.
But needless to say, you're looking up at this unbelievable ceiling and just like, this is, I don't know. There's just some places that definitely out of type, but so many places that are underwhelming. It's like, I'm kind of used to that now. Like, just got to be realistic. Like these places are things that.
What about some of the architecture of some of these ancient places?
Yeah.
That have you ever seen that show, Ancient Aliens? Where like
I'm aware of it.
So the first like couple seasons of that show are very interesting and, very like, oh, interesting. Because like they go, it's obviously on the History Channel. So they're going to talk about how could this have possibly happened? And they kind of like go over the different scenarios of how it happened. But then they're like,
ancient astronaut theorists suggest that evidence of extraterrestrial intervention can also be found by examining their alignments with the stars.
Some of those are like, interesting. So that would be like an interesting thing to see like in Egypt, but I don't know. For me
to go that far just to
for me, Ethan.
Yeah.
Drones have come a long way.
Yes, they have.
4K, 5K, all this video.
No
I'm like, oh man. And I hate
flying
so much.
with the white hot intensity of 1,000 suns.
It just sucks, dude. Like the process, like, back we had that era. When did you start flying? Do you remember when you
college
started
football
flying?
was the first time. So when I was playing at Centris, that was like what, 99, 2000.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. So that's perfect.
Yeah.
That was such a great process. Like it was so nice. Like as far as
prior
the process.
to September 1st.
Yes. Yeah. September 11th.
Sorry,
yes.
the 11th. Yeah. So it wasn't the first. Jesus.
We got Houston. We got Dallas.
11th,
We got
I don't know.
September 1st.
Yeah.
I actually remember September 1st because we were partying at the gorge with the sand dunes. It was a great summer, but and then it kind of didn't end great. But
you guys were on your road trip, right?
Then we went on the road trip. Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah, I was on that pod.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the traveling part. God, it's just like
I hate planes. Well, there's nothing to be comfortable, and you're like I was telling you the other day. But I was like, I'm constantly in Sarah's chair. She hates it because she feels squished because I don't fit into the standard economy chair. But we're also cheapskates. Like I think once or twice my aunt spoiled us and paid for us to fly first class to Hawaii, which was incredible.
Yeah.
But it's just
they
like,
give you
as
that
much
warm
as it was
cookie.
oh
That's
my
like
God. All the drinks you could drink. I'm like,
wet.
another rum and Coke, please. Another rum and Coke, please. Another rum. Like, I'm gonna get carted
You're
off
all
this damn
blasted.
plane. Yeah, I just like, but they were so sweet and it was incredible. And you could tilt back the chair and there's all this room. I'm like, it ruins you because then you're like,
and
how can I go back to being like cattle and
And when you're
steerage?
flying, so like when you go to Europe,
oh shit,
for
that's
instance,
terrible.
right?
Yeah.
Now you have to go to like New York, right? And then
Well, it
or whatever,
depends.
right? And
Lately,
then you fly
there's
over.
been a lot better. It used to be.
How do you fly there?
Well, usually it used to be a lot more like all these layover flights. Lately, we've gotten a lot more flights where it's basically from Seattle, taking great circle routes because it's a 3-dimensional. So shot.
Right.
And we'll fly right.
Oh,
into
the Earth isn't flat?
Amsterdam or London. Well, if you're a flat earther, I don't want to pop your bubble. That's all right. And yeah. No, I can see. I've seen the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah,
I can
right.
attest.
Yeah, if you've flown in an airplane, you can
tell you.
Yeah,
firsthand. But needless to say, yeah. So that's a lot of them now are like that. It's like out of Seattle nonstop to at least London or
really
New Amsterdam, like to Amsterdam.
Wow.
And from there, if you need to connect to something deeper into Europe,
okay,
so it's better. But it didn't start that way.
Yeah.
Like we used to be like flying out of Seattle to, like you said, like Cincinnati or New York or something else, and then catching a flight to. And sometimes you'd fly to Europe and then catch another flight. It's like, are you kidding me? This is 4 freaking flights over 2. Like. It was just miserable. I'm trying to get kids through all of that and keeping awake and alert and then trying to hit the ground running because you have all the jet lag. And
do you remember the greatest flight you've ever taken and the worst flight you've ever taken?
Yeah.
What's the greatest flight you've ever taken?
Greatest flight I ever taken was first class to Hawaii. I mean, it's hard to beat that, right? All you could drink, all that was amazing, both there and back. So that's the best easily. The worst flight I've ever taken would probably be on the way to Japan. We had already gone through a bunch of delays. We had broken parts. We've already had flights that are delayed. We missed our initial flight. We're going to be late. And somehow I've got like a kid behind me who's kicking my seat the entire time. And they don't speak English because they're not American. I've got like this problem where as you know, Josh, I played a little bit in college and stuff, but I did a lot of hitting with my head, so my neck's all messed up, and I have like all these neck injuries and pains. But something
You still have those bumps all over your body?
Oh yeah,
like,
I do too. All the contusion.
Yeah,
things,
that's crazy, man.
I mean,
You're like, feel this, man. I'm like, good God, what is that?
I got all sorts of battle scars. But like, I slept wrong the night before in the shitty hotel because we missed our flights. Like we had to stay in a hotel in Seattle, which should have been easy because I don't know.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. So that I'm already just cranky and angry at that. So I was just miserable. And we were late and we missed all this other stuff. And then we got kids that are whining and it was not the funnest trip. So that was the worst flight ever. Probably.
Okay.
What are yours for best and worst?
The best flight I've ever taken back from Hawaii.
Yeah.
They like, there was the plane had to be a quarter full.
Oh, wow.
And it was at night. Right. So like,
Yeah.
they're like, we're going to turn off all the lights. So, everyone, and basically, and I might as well have been sitting in first class because I was flying back alone. Right. So like, I was flying back alone. I put down all the seats and I just laid down and I fell asleep because then there were the big squishy leather seats. I don't know if it was like business class or wherever they put me.
Like middle kind of nice.
Anyway, so like I'm like laying down and I woke up to boom, boom. And they're like, we are getting ready to descend down to Phoenix.
Man.
And I was like, you gotta be shitting me. I just closed my eyes. I was like,
That's awesome.
oh, this is the greatest experience. Now the worst experience, well, there's a couple, but one of them was different. One of them was flying back from Seattle, and it was just because there was a baby in front of me, a baby on the side of me, and then a baby in back of me.
Are they syncing up with their screaming?
They were all screaming the entire flight, screaming, crying, and then I got like this
smell of
shit.
poop and
yeah,
vomit
it was lovely. It was lovely.
Spit up.
And I remember I came back and
that's birth control.
I landed and I posted it, and like all these moms started attacking me. I'm like, it's
son of a
not.
bitch.
They're like, it's not their fault. And I go, I didn't say it was their fault. I go, but wait, what about me?
Flight for me.
What about me?
Yeah.
How
What was the
dare
other
you?
one that was terrible.
Huh?
What was
So
the
the
other
other one that was legit the worst flight I've ever had. I was flying back from Minneapolis, and it was a non
Wisconsin trips.
It was a because Wisconsin doesn't have like a lot of like direct flights.
Why would it?
I don't know.
Unless you're really
Anyway.
into cheese.
That's why I was like, oh God, I hate there's only a couple, like, I don't know. There's not a lot of options. So like they do have direct flights, but it's like, all right. So anyway, almost every flight goes to like Minneapolis, and I hate Minneapolis airport. It's just like so huge. And it's like, I always end up running and like, oh God. I remember Andy like had blown out his knee, and we're like, we gotta make the connector, Andy. And he's like, oh God. He's like, oh no. I'm like, oh, this is where they're shutting the door. They're like, we're running, and they're like, we're just like dripping. We're dripping sweat. No, but there was this one flight, and we were coming back, and these are the assigned seats, and it was packed flight, right? And you know how some of these planes, all planes are not the same. No. There was this, I was in the middle. So I was like right next to a wing, and the curvature was like this. And I was like, oh fuck, because I was right on a window. I was at a window, right? And I was like, oh God, this is not good. And I had two big dudes, huge dudes, like big Ethan motherfuckers sitting next to me, right? And I've never had a panic attack, right?
But that was the first time?
This is the closest. I was trying so hard. I was concentrating so hard to like breathe and stay calm. And I tried to turn on a movie, and I was like, I can't concentrate on the movie. And I was like, oh God. And I was like, it was weird because I've never had a panic attack. I've still never had a panic attack. I wouldn't even know what that was, but that is really close. I was like, oh, now I get it.
Did you feel like you couldn't control your breathing? Did you feel like you couldn't?
I was trying so hard to breathe. I was like, just concentrate.
Crazy. Did you feel like you want to lay on the floor and suck your thumb?
I wanted to push that baby out because I was having contractions and I was trying to breathe properly. And so
you almost shit your pants.
Almost. Well, Ethan,
that would be worse. That would be terrible.
We could talk about this for days, and you know what? I could probably have you back, and we could talk about more of this in the future.
Sure. Well, because I hijacked a lot of it with health talk. I apologize.
No, that was great.
Maybe back up so people knew.
I don't care what anybody says. That's important, and it was very good to hear, because like I don't think you've ever spoke about that, right? I don't think I've ever asked that about the details of that, but it made a lot of sense because, you know, you describing not feeling anything on in your feet, and then it's like creeping up to your waist, and you're like, you gotta get to the doctor.
Yeah.
That's scary stuff
the
right
fact
there.
That it was on a trip, like when I was overseas too, it was just like the fear of that, of like, what do I do? I mean, I don't know what people do if they do get like in real injuries or sickness, like how insurance. I mean, that just seems like that would be a nightmare to logistically navigate through. So
that is scary. Yeah. I had to bail a guy out of a Mexican hospital because he got too drunk and he fell off this balcony.
Oh, Jesus.
But I didn't know where he was.
Oh, God.
I didn't know where he was. So like I was like, I went, basically how it works in Mexico is like, because we were out like at this big club.
Yeah.
Right. So like I didn't know what happened to him. I was like, we were next to each other, we were drinking beers, and I look over and he was like kind of like on this ledge.
Yeah.
Right. But I thought nothing of it because like he was like dancing with some girls or whatever. So then, and he disappears, and I was like, all right, well, maybe
no girls said anything or nothing. Like
nobody said anything. So I was like, I'm like, I'm walking around in this hotel, or not this hotel, but the club is like, we're closing here. And I was like, where's my buddy? I was like, and this is like very primitive cell.
Oh yeah.
So like
and you're in Mexico, so who knows like if there's even the cell.
Exactly. So I go back to my room, and I'd gotten like a slice of pizza or something like that, or whatever, a burger or whatever. And I go down, my key card isn't working. My key card is like, why isn't this not working? I'm like, this is my room. It's not working. So what they do to alert you is they shut off your key card. So you have to go down to the lobby. I go down to the lobby and I go, hey, my key card's not working. And I'm all angry. And I'm like, what the hell? My key card's not working. They're like, and I was like pounding on the door because I thought he was there. And he's like, hey, open up the door, you drunk asshole. Hey, open up the door. And he wasn't there. And I was like, I go down there and I go, hey, the key isn't working. And they're like, oh, and they're very broken English. You'd think they'd speak a little bit better English at the front.
They can only find what they can find.
Exactly. But they're like, your friend is in the hospital. And I was like, excuse me? I'm like sobered up really quick. Like, I'm sorry? Yeah. They're like, your friend, he is in the hospital. So I go to the hospital, and they're like, yeah, we have your friend. He's in the back. And
We're going to have to amputate.
They're basically, just putting fluids in him. He's drunk, But I didn't know how bad it was.
Yeah.
It was like, is he all right? And they're like, well, if you want to see him.
Oh, Jesus.
Give us some money.
Are you serious?
I swear to God. They're like, who's going to pay it? Is he going to pay it? Or are you going to pay it? And I go, basically, I can get hot when I get pissed. It takes a little bit for me, but I can get pissed off.
Can you really, Josh?
So I go, you listen to me. I go, I want to see him right now. I don't even know if he's here. I want to see him. And I go, then we'll talk about me paying. And I'm like, and they're like, okay. So like they took me in the back, and like he's just sitting there with all this like fucking shit, like beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, what in the hell happened to him? Like, you don't know. You're like, oh my God, what the hell? But basically they're just pumping him full of, saline and shit. And then they're like, all right, so who's paying? And then it was basically like, how much like, so how much is the bill? And they're like, how much you got? Like, like the vacation. And they're like, no, I just wondering like how much this is. And they're like, and I'm asking you how much you got. Yeah. No, it's like, no, but so yeah, I had to pay like, I don't know what it was, dude. Like it was a lot. It was a substantial amount of money. And then when he fucking finally woke up,
did he pay you back?
Yeah. Okay. He had insurance too. So like, good thing. Cause like fucking, I didn't have insurance. But anyway, or I can't remember if I did, but anyway, I was like, hey dude, make sure that you pay me back for me bailing you out of the hospital.
Which is the craziest thing ever.
Yeah. So no, he was good with it. Yeah. But that was crazy.
Insurance too. I made the mistake of not having medical insurance for a bit. I thought, I'm done playing football. I'm going to be fine.
Right.
And, and right when I say that, Sarah and I we were just together. We're getting ready for the wedding, and she's going to graduate college from Central.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I'm down there. I'm not done yet, even though I'm older than her, but don't judge me. A lot of people go to school for 7 years, John. Not all of them are doctors.
Lee is not a doctor.
No, he's not a doctor. That's for sure. But yeah, so I'm down there getting ready for it. I'm like, oh my God, my appendix burst.
Oh,
and I was in Ellensburg for her graduation.
Me too.
Yeah. So, and then, but no medical insurance. So Sarah's like, oh, so I'm going to inherit $5,000 in medical bills. I'm lucky that's what it was at the time. Imagine what that'd be today. But then, and luckily they had apparently a whole contingency of dumbass college kids had done.
Yeah.
There was like a scholarship I could apply for.
Oh,
They paid
geez.
for some of it, and then DHS helped me for a short time, and then we ended up paying it all back off. But it was like, what a nightmare that was. And I thought, like, well, this is a deal breaker. Like, this girl's already out of my league. I don't want to F this up by starting out with all this extra debt. Plus, I thought I signed up for like a subsidized college loan. And apparently, it was unsubsidized. So Sarah got like, "What do you mean we all?" I'm like, "Honey, she's so good with money, and I'm terrible." So I'm kind of amazed that she stuck around.
Oh, God.
dumb shit I do. So, yeah, medical, fun stuff, man.
Kids.
Navigate in that world.
Kids get medical until
Get great jobs. Get medical.
until it becomes national. Oh, it's never gonna happen.
Never mind.
All right,
We'll move
Ethan.
to Europe for that.
All right, Ethan.
Yes, sir.
Thanks again for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Love it, brother.
It's good to have you in the desert.
Yeah.
Just dry as hell. Just constantly putting lotion on.
Yeah.
Slathering it everywhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's go somewhere else for a second.
All right, we'll have to have you back soon.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, I love the fact that you just jump on that hopper jet down here and you're down here in
Glasgow
2
to
hours.
Mesa, baby.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's great.
It's awesome. Anyway, all right, everybody. Thanks. If you're still watching, I salute you.
Yeah, God
I
bless
salute you. And we'll see you next time. For Ethan McDonald, I'm Josh. And as always, thank you for being a friend.